Good evening and welcome to the best 30 minutes in sports. I'm one of your hosts, Junior Skepple. To my left is Michael Watkins, and we have a great show coming up for you. We want to talk a little bit of UK football and some UK basketball. Keep in mind the phone lines are open. If you're in Richmond or Berea, you can call us at 859-623-1340. If you're in Irvine, you can call us at 606-723-5188. And also, you can listen online at wekyam.com. I've been on the record saying I don't think they should take Noel number one, but at the same time, what are you going to get less flack for if it doesn't work out? If you take Nerlens Noel number one, or if you take Alex Len number one, because Nerlens Noel has been the talk for the number one pick since before he played one game at UK.
Yeah, exactly.
So just play it safe. If you're not going to trade down, play it safe. Take Nerlens. Exactly. Take Nerlens. Wait till it gets healthy around Christmas time and see what you can do with him. He's not a franchise guy. He's not going to turn them around in one night, but he is a guy that's a piece towards that future Eastern Conference championship and hopefully finals appearance if you're a Cavs fan. I have them taking Otto Porter out of Georgetown, and he really reminds me of a Paul Pierce because he kind of has an old man's game. He kind of plays really smooth. Yeah, he's really slow, really smooth at the same time. He knows where he wants to get on the court, and if he can get to those spots, he can be successful doing what he wants to do. So I think they will take Otto Porter, also a very safe pick for the Wizards at number 3. Last year for the Pelicans, their leading scorer was Eric Gordon at 17 points a game. Outside of him and Grievous Vasquez, no one at the point guard position played over 30 minutes a game. So you're definitely going to bring in Trey Burke. He's going to be a good backup for you. And as Eric Gordon continues to age, and also he is a tad bit injury prone, if he does go down, you have Trey Burke, who really made a name for himself in this year's NCAA tournament. Right here, I have the Portland Trail Blazers taking Cody Zeller out of Indiana. So he's finally off my board at 10. And I think he'll come in, play alongside LaMarcus Aldridge, assuming he's still in Portland.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, we saw how the Greg Oden experiment blew up in their faces, so maybe they'll try to draft another big guy at 10. Cody Zeller is one of the better big guys on the board outside of Nerlens Noel and Alex Len, so I do think they will take Cody Zeller at 10. I actually like the Chicago Bulls to be my favorite to come out of the East next season. I think it's interesting that but neither of us have the Miami Heat as our favorite coming into next year. And I think with the way the Bulls played with basically their C team this past season against the Heat, I think that's also a good sign going into this coming year. You get Derrick Rose back. He should be 100%. He took an extra year off, in my opinion. And so I think I like Chicago a lot. And one thing I think that you have to keep in mind when you're talking about the Bulls is how much they despise the Miami Heat. Like, they are coming in this season. They're going to play hard every game to try to get that home court advantage, what they had 2 years ago when Derrick Rose went down. And they're going to play hard. Joakim Noah, he's really going to be the heart and soul of that team, just like he was at Florida. And I really like the Bulls to come out of the East. You know, I don't like to call myself a LeBron James hater. I like to call myself a LeBron James realist.
There you go.
Because I like to point out the things that other people refuse, you know, to acknowledge when you're talking about LeBron James and his skills on the basketball court. LeBron James is not consistent with his jump shot. I know he shot 56%, 57% in the regular season on field goal percentage, but your field goal percentage does not directly reflect how good you shoot the basketball outside the paint or from anywhere for that matter. And then also one thing that I noticed from LeBron is, for example, one time in Game 3, he got a screen set on a screen and roll from Chris Bosh outside the three-point line. So what happened was LeBron dribbles off the three-point line. Kawhi Leonard goes under the screen. He is in the paint guarding LeBron James, and LeBron James did not even look at the basket. You know, I just don't see how that's possible when you supposedly are the best player we've ever seen. One thing that we have to remember when talking about LeBron James is the regular season is a totally different game than the playoffs. Yeah. Teams they see you more than one time a week. They're game planning for weeks in advance for your team, and they're really gearing everything towards you. So it's easy to hit those jump shots in the regular season with no pressure. The crowd's quiet. You know, I always say the NBA regular season for most games is a glorified pickup game. And they're just out there playing, you know, halfway defense, not do much of anything. But when the heat's really on, when the lights are really going, can you hit those shots? Right now, he cannot do it. And the first time I heard about this was actually on Twitter. I thought it was a joke. Like, I've never heard of a player coming out of retirement and without taking any kind of time off, getting a head coaching job. And I think it's going to be difficult for him maybe to get the respect from his players because he was one of them less than a year ago.
Yeah.
And then also I've heard that Darren Williams is one of his better friends. So can he have that separation between coach and player? I was at ground zero of Tebow Mania when I was doing my undergrad work at the University of Florida. And, Tebow, even then when he was winning games and playing well, like I went to pretty much every game, every home game and a couple road games. And even then, I noticed, like, his throwing was subpar.
Yeah.
Like, what he was doing was throwing the ball 5 to 10 yards to Aaron Hernandez, Percy Harvin, and all those guys. And, they would take it from there. I think Louisville's going to win this game, too. Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback. Louisville has one of the easiest schedules in the nation.
Yeah.
If they can run the table, they could very possibly be in the national championship game at the end of the year. So you have to keep that in mind. So this team's going to be really focused. It's a rivalry game. It's a game you cannot lose if you want to get to the national championship.
Yeah.
So I think Louisville will win. UK has not beat Florida in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened. Not one time has it happened. Many times UK has been close, but they have never, ever in my lifetime, I've been alive for 25 years, going on 26, and the University of Kentucky has never beat the Florida Gators. Marshall Henderson, as I saw him when he came to Florida, and he brings excitement to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't been, relevant in a while, and he's just one player who's just so fun to watch because every single thing he doesn't hide any emotion at all. And for some guys, like for example Alex Poythress, who I don't think he smiled a day in his life.
Like Keenan Perkins.
He's the exact opposite of that. And one thing I did want to talk about is Dominique Hawkins. So for those of you who don't know who he is, he's a Madison Central graduate, Mr. Basketball, led Madison Central to their first state championship in basketball ever. And he signed with UK, but this isn't going to be very popular, but I didn't think he should have went to UK.
No.
And the reason being is, one, that Coach Cal is always going to recruit the top point guards. You can't go to the NBA if you don't play.
No.
And then I have a very close source to Dominique who said that Coach Cal told him that he's not going to recruit a point guard this coming season so that Dominique can play so he can have that spot. But, we all know Coach Cal's a bit of a snake, and all great college coaches are. I wouldn't consider him great, but good.
If the best player wants to come to Kentucky and he's a point guard,
he's going to come.
Exactly.
And I don't even blame Dominique for wanting to go to UK. I blame his inner circle for not, advising him a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because as we saw with Ryan Harrow, he underperformed, and where's he playing now? Not at UK. They're going to say he left, but we all know he got cut.
They pushed him out.
He got cut. Like, college basketball players are now getting cut from teams. And then you have Kyle Wiltshire, who is kind of on the fence about leaving right now. I heard he might come back, but I think he'll leave also. So I think that, too, when you're constantly bringing in these top guys, he could have went to South Carolina, who offered him really early this season. He could have played for them for 4 years, have the loyalty of the coaching staff, and also get that same SEC exposure, but also get it for 4 years straight, as opposed to, you never know what Coach Cal is going to do. And I think, too, one thing that could have swayed him towards UK is, being from Richmond, not me, but people from Richmond want you to go to UK because that's their team.
Yeah.
But they just want to be able to say that, hey, I know Dominic, I went to high school with him. He's going to UK now. Like, I knew him when he wasn't at UK. But at the end of the day, when you're up at 4 a.m. running sprints, they're not going to be there. When you're waking up at 4, lifting, running, practicing, going to class all day, and then going to practice from 3 to 6, they're not going to be there. So at some point, his advisors have to tell him, yes, you're friends when you do this. Yes, this is UK, and it may be your dream, but maybe it's not the best fit for you. I think he's good enough to play at UK. There's no doubt in my mind he's good enough. But I don't think it was the best fit for him right now. During the season, you're going to have your bumps in the road. Conference schedules can be really tough. Even if you are the best team, you're going into other people's houses. When UK comes into town, they're up. Kids are camping out at 5 or 6 a.m. for that game. Are you afraid that your youth may show a little bit early in the season? And if you advance to the NCAA tournament, do you think that could be a detriment to this team? Sports gambling in the United States is a multi-billion-dollar industry. According to the American Gaming Association, it is estimated that over $400 billion is wagered annually on sports contests. Gambling is a big part of the sports culture in the United States.
Inside. Oh, what a finish from Kobe Bryant. sports journalists who gamble on sports they cover run the risk of violating their ethical obligations to sports fans. ESPN NBA analyst Rick Bucher, who has 20 years of sports journalism experience, says his job would give him inside knowledge on the possible outcome of games.
I would certainly have an advantage, knowing how referees call games, knowing how teams score high and low, knowing how certain matchups impact particular games, knowing even beyond that, so guys that are nursing injuries or teams whose chemistry is faltering. I would imagine that I would think that I could be pretty successful, but whatever I could possibly make would not be worth the risk to my career.
Associate Director of the John Curley Center for Sports Journalism at Penn State, Marie Harden, says the lack of ethical considerations observed by some sports writers dates back to the beginnings of sports journalism.
If we look at the history of sports journalism in the United States, sports journalism was sort of it was developed as a promotional instrument for the sports industries in the United States. It wasn't from the beginning designed to be a watchdog.
As sports journalism continues to grow,
Tebow trying to run around the corner. Tebow's got a first down and more. He might score. Touchdown!
Rick Bucher says now more than ever, sports fans may be reading or watching reports that are skewed due to the gambling habits of some reporters.
Reporting in general has become the Wild West. There was a time where you needed to have two solid sources to report almost anything. And those solid sources had to be provided and identified to an editor or someone else that you were working with. And that was the check system.
Professor and chair of the Department of Journalism at the University of Florida, Wayne Wanta, says during his time as a sports writer, gambling took place.
It was at a paper I worked at. I probably should remain nameless, but there was a reporter who actually took bets over the phone in the office. He was caught, and I guess depending on who you talk to, he either took early retirement or he was fired.
Rick Bucher says sports journalists have a responsibility to be unbiased, and sports fans should care about whether or not sports reporters are gambling.
I would think that when I pick up a newspaper or I read someone, I don't want to believe, I don't want hidden agendas. I want to know where they're coming from and why they're writing what they're writing. Now, it may not be what I agree with, but I'd like to know that they are being truthful to me in every front.
Penn State professor Marie Harden says the education of aspiring sports journalists can play a role in building the ethical thinking of future sports writers.
Education certainly plays a very large role, but also we know that the family background and the training and the sort of the grounding that someone gets certainly it is part of the mix there when they come into a journalism education program.
As the stakes continue to rise on sports contests throughout the United States,
the game's final play is a Wilson lob to the end zone, which is fought for by Tate with Jennings simultaneous. Who has it? Who they give it to? Touchdown!
sports journalists must weigh all ethical considerations before using the knowledge they obtain as a reporter for personal gain. I am Junior Skepple reporting.